I'm at the corner of Grand Boulevard and the Maisonneuve Boulevard, where there's an issue of cars essentially going right through yeah, like this. You'll notice a cyclist is coming and the car barely stopped. This has been going on for years, and I've been trying to get this issue dealt with properly. Go ahead. Some of them do slow down when they see me filming, but look at this one. This is coming up real fast. It's about to turn the corner, and there's a couple of cyclists there. One of these days, cars are going to come around the corner and smash into a couple of cyclists or pedestrians. Again, yeah, the only reason that guy slowed down is because the cyclist was there and basically did it last minute. Yeah, here's another one coming up quite quickly. Of course, the cyclists go blasting through too. But yeah, watch this. Yeah. Okay, he saw me filming, so he slowed down. But a lot of these cars just go right through. And I've repeatedly asked Côte-de-Neige Notre-Dame-de-Grâce to put in a zebra stripe pedestrian crosswalk here to make it very, very clear that this is a pedestrian crosswalk. Ideally a yellow striped pedestrian crosswalk, because according to what I've been told, yellow striped pedestrian crosswalk means stop, period. See, that one just went right through. Like, I'm standing here filming and cars are going right through. Now, I noticed that they did put in this paint job narrowing the lane. I have in the past suggested putting in like actual physical lane narrowing. Can't remember what they call them anymore. Saillie de trottoir. That's one of my suggestions. So they put in painted ones. This is new, but it's doing absolutely nothing to get cars to slow down properly and stop. And again, I don't mind a Montreal stop. Like, if you slow down and then you go through without fully stopping, that's fine. I can live with that. But like, that's a Montreal stop. But a lot of cars, I'm standing here filming, a highly visible. I got my phone out, and a bunch of cars went right through. Nope. If I wasn't here standing with my phone, a lot of these cars wouldn't be slowing down and doing Montreal stops. They just sail right through. So I don't know what's wrong with Côte-de-Neige Notre-Dame-de-Grâce City Works, but they're incapable of doing what I asked them to do, which, and multiple other things, like putting the stop signs more visible. Oh yeah, here we go. Speaking of visible stop signs, this one is almost hidden by the foliage, and this is an issue. At least I suggested lowering the stop sign down around the level where that bicycle sign is. Bring it down lower so it's away from the foliage, but also more at eye level for the cars. Because, when you get close, something's up high like that, you might not even see it all that well because it's above your windscreen in terms of the angle. So they did something that I did not ask. Well, yes, I did ask for actual physical lane narrowing, but they put in these painted lines, which, quite frankly, most of the cars are ignoring anyway. A lot of the cars go over the line, literally and figuratively. So I'm not happy. I'm really not. I'm really not happy. Like, I make very practical suggestions about what can be done. Amongst other things, like we see these green uprights here. Now they're to denote the bike lane, but they could put an upright there where it's one of these uprights that clearly say pedestrian crosswalk. Like, there's a little sign on it and it's yellow. It's much more visible, and it has like a pedestrian crossing thing right on it. But no, it's not there. So they basically, once again, did something that A, I did not ask for, and B, is completely ineffective. It has done absolutely nothing to cause people to slow down and ideally come to full stop when it's, a good idea to come to full stop. As I said, I do not mind a Montreal stop. I don't mind someone slowing down enough to make sure everything's safe before continuing on without coming to an absolute full stop. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is people sailing right through this intersection with barely even stopping, basically barely slowing down. I shouldn't say barely stopping, I should say barely slowing down. We've already seen this in the early part of this video. Again, I'm highly visible. They can see that I'm filming. So of course they're gonna be, thank you, sir. Got a little peace sign there or whatever, maybe a victory sign, but there's no victory here. And I am extremely disappointed, and I am mostly disappointed at Stéphane Plante, the city manager of Côte-de-Nez, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, because ultimately he could have sorted this out years ago, but he's basically done very little, and he has not done very practical things that I suggested. Multiple things, those haven't been done. But no, they did paint this. I didn't notice. I was here about a week ago, and I didn't notice this. Maybe this is recent. Like maybe because I did some video. I'll check my video. Maybe it wasn't in place when I came by about a week ago to see if anything had been done. It looked like absolutely nothing had been done. And it had been repainted, but basically repainted exactly how it was before. I think I probably would have noticed this actually. I think this actually is new. So they can do this. They can paint lines that are totally ineffective in causing cars to slow down. Like there's one going right through. Yeah, at the last minute he slowed down because he saw me filming. But you can see them, they're approaching this at high speed. That's another thing I suggested is, putting speed bumps in, like even putting speed bumps a block away, or at least putting like some indication, to cars to slow down. But no, they just sail right through here. And I'm getting fed up with it. One of these days someone is going to get hit. So I'm going to bring this to the attention of the Ensemble Montreal. I see a bike going right through. It's not much fun to get hit by a bike at that speed either. See this guy basically, sailed right through, and they can see I'm filming. So a lot of the ones that are doing Montreal stops, the only reason they're doing them is because they can see that I'm standing here with a cell phone camera filming the situation. Now watch this one. Yeah, right through. Okay, slow down a bit. But to me, that's barely a Montreal stop, So yeah, again, they actually did make some changes, but they made literally none of the changes I recommended. I recommended putting in actual physical concrete saillie de trottoir on the other side so that it really would narrow the lane. This is like an artificial saillie de trottoir. It's a painted saillie de trottoir, and people don't care. I mean, people aren't going to go in that. Okay, it looks like they put a no stopping sign. I'm not sure if that was there before. It's been ignored before anyway. If it was there, it's been ignored in the past. I just noticed that. I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. So there is this no stopping sign here. I'm not sure if that's new. It might be, because one of the issues was cars or trucks parking where the artificial saillie de trottoir is, and basically making visibility bad. But on the other hand, they did narrow the lane. They were actually better than a saillie de trottoir in terms of narrowing the lane, the parked vehicles. So anyhow, we've already seen a bunch of cars drive right over this inner. But if this was concrete, if this painted with the diagonal stripes was actual concrete, well, the cars would probably be forced to slow down quite a bit more, But no, that hasn't been done. And why is it that after at least 3 years of saying, hey, how about a zebra stripe pedestrian crosswalk, it hasn't been done? Zebra stripe, it's really simple, you know, it's not difficult to, if you can paint this, you can paint a zebra stripe here. This is really just ridiculous, you know, like they do things that are ineffective, and yet they fail, or quite frankly, apparently refuse to do things that would be effective. Yeah, this guy, that guy basically almost went right through. And I'm standing here filming. Here's another one. Yeah, okay, he saw me. He's looking right at me. You know, if I was not standing here filming, a lot of these cars would go right through, you know, barely even slowing down. So quite frankly, I'm a little pissed off. I'm a little pissed off at Stéphane Plante especially. I'm not going to come down too hard on the new Ensemble Montreal administration, because they actually have been reasonably good about this. You know, and they've only been in power for, you know, less than a year, 7 or 8 months approximately, depending on how you want to count when they were actually in power, which as far as I'm concerned is like January. So nevertheless, Stéphane Plante could have sorted this out, could have implemented 2 or 3 or even all of the recommendations that I have made, and yet here we are, you know, 3 years later, August, and nearly the end of August, right through, barely slowing down. That blue Subaru, whatever, you know, this is a common practice. People who are going up Grand, you know, probably residents, right through. They don't even slow down. They just go right through. There's a stop sign right there. It's the back of the stop sign, and they sail right through, not even slowing down. This is just ridiculous. And as far as I'm concerned, okay, here, yeah, but you know, again, they're seeing me filming, so so I'm not saying some people don't do Montreal stops when I'm not here. You know, like a fair number of them do Montreal stops, but there's way too many. See, that's a full stop. That is okay, and that's because there was a cyclist over there. If that cyclist hadn't been coming, maybe they wouldn't have done a full stop. So anyway, enough of rambling on and on about this, but I'm not happy. I'm really not impressed, especially with Stéphane Plante, city manager of Côte-des-Neiges, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce Borough. He could have and should have put in appropriate safety measures at least 2 years ago, and could have done it as much as 3 years ago in terms of me suggesting things. But this has been going on for years. Like, this is not new, you know. Even before I began asking for this to be dealt with, you can be sure that this situation existed, and probably they were aware of it, and they just keep, you know, they haven't done very much, but what little they have done has been totally ineffective, whereas other things that could be effective have not been done, you know. So again, not happy.